Canada's, in fact, North America's worst attack on mosques or any place of worship actually happened 2 days after the Muslim ban that happened outside of Canada, south of the border.
Because Allah says in the Quran, Al-Haq wal-Batil, Batil, the injustice will always fail. Haq, justice will always prevail.
Justice for All Canada stand for?
Justice for All Canada is a human rights advocacy organization that focuses on Muslim minorities around the world that are being persecuted. That includes minorities like Rohingya Muslims, Uyghur Muslims, Kashmiri Muslims, Palestinians right now, as well as Muslims in Sri Lanka and India as well. And we stand for and stand with the communities whose voices have been that need to be amplified in Canada and around the world.
So what does justice mean to you?
I think justice to me means when you get something that's like rightfully yours. Like for example, like if an inconvenience happens to you, I think if you get back what was taken away from you, I think that's justice.
Sister Salaha, what does Justice for All do every day on a daily basis to reach their advocacy goals?
As a human rights and advocacy organization, Justice for All Canada makes available a number of tools and resources for the community to access in order to help reach your advocacy goals. So logging onto our website, justiceforallcanada.org, you can take action through automated emails to your local member of parliament. We do help you pick up your phone and call your local MP, letting them know what your human rights concerns are. And of course, last but certainly not least, especially for the large amount of young people such as yourself, we do make it very easy to, for example, send a tweet or make a post on Facebook to raise awareness of persecution facing Muslims and other minorities around the world who face persecution.
So what does justice mean to you?
Justice to me means every individual having their access to their individual human rights.
As Canadians, why should we be concerned about what's going on outside of Canada?
Number one, as Canadians, we have a responsibility living in one of the most beautiful, blessed countries in the world. We have a responsibility to stand in solidarity with millions around the world who do not have opportunities, who do not have the privilege that we have. And I remind friends very often that Canada's, in fact, North America's worst attack on mosques or any place of worship actually happened 2 days after the Muslim ban that happened outside of Canada, south of the border. And let us not forget, more recently, we have seen rise in, for instance, local lobbying efforts in Canada by Hindutva groups who are lobbying against prayers in Peel District Board, School Board, Muslim prayers. Recently, they have organized enough to actually oppose a masjid construction project in Brampton, which is in a suburb of Toronto. The reality is Canadians need to be really, really concerned and be vigilant about all forms of hate, all forms of bigotry, and injustices that are being imported from other parts of the world, and they're coming from the same places where Muslim minorities are being persecuted in those specific regions.
So why did you decide to volunteer at Justice for All?
Yeah, so I decided to volunteer for Justice for All, so to create the awareness against the genocides happening for the Muslims all over the world, in Rohingya and the Uyghurs, and then also the fascist governments happening in India as well. So yeah, trying to be a voice for the oppressed Muslims against the world.
So what does Justice for All do to advocate against powerful Islamophobic states?
One of the most important things that I can advise for other people, as well as something that we do, is super simple, which is education and awareness. I think before you go out to try to advocate for anyone, it's very important that you do your research and study and have all of the pieces of the puzzle in your mind before trying to present it out there. Another really important part of kind of talking about authoritarian states is coming up with your demands. So for example, one authoritarian state that we try to raise awareness of is the right-wing government in India, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP party. So we always have a list of demands in terms of what we're looking for, what we would like the Canadian government to do when it comes to the BJP government on behalf of Muslim minorities in India, just to make it a little bit easier and a little bit more straightforward.
So what does justice mean to you?
Justice is the ability to let go of what is good for your own self, to realize that what's best for yourself is what you do for others.
So why is financial support very important for this cause?
Of course, if you look at all the other states, the Islamophobic states, they are spending billions of dollars to subjugate, to oppress the Muslims. And so if you look at anywhere, and the media, everything is supporting them. So as Muslims, we have to counter that. Any advocacy work will not survive if there's no financial support. Now, you may be wondering, okay, these are like $1 billion are being spent by states and we are only spending a couple of dollars. What can it do? What kind of change is going to make? But don't forget, but when you give that $1 or $10 is the barakah. That's the sincerity. Because Allah says in the Quran, Al-Haqq wal-Batil, Batil, the injustice will always fail. Haqq, justice will always prevail. So that's why we call upon all of you to support us, to support Justice for All Canada's work, because this has to sustain, although small donations, small support, keep on giving to sustain the work so that they can counter the narrative done by the Islamophobic state.